Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Module 2, Week 2, and before I get started, I want to let you know that if you need the closed captioned, go ahead and click on the arrow down here at the bottom here, and then you should be good to go. Okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the slides, so I'm going to try and share my screen with you so that we can look at those. And then we're going to go through some of the homework questions just to get a starter and a feel on how to code in the ICD-10 CM book. All right, let me get started with the slideshow here. It looks like it's not going to show up on both screens. So, okay, so not sure what it's doing right now. Okay, so these are the slides from your 321 Code It book for your textbooks. We're going to walk through what you're doing in Chapter 3 of this week. I'm going to unplug that. Okay, so it's not wanting to move very good, it looks like. Okay, so we're going to look at a lot of different ways of which to code, some definitions. We're going to be looking at the include and exclude notes in the tab sections, and looking at the and, due to things, and the cross references, for example. This is just the format frame on how to actually use the book, so which is really important information. I'm going to pass on the objectives. ICD-10 and ICD-10 PCS coding conventions. Coding rules are found in the introduction part of your ICD-10 CM book. It's at the very beginning. That's always nice to know because of the fact that if you get any questions on the CPC exam that you're going to take in a few months, that's where you can find all of the history and all of the coding conventions and guidelines in the front. Your ICD-10 CM book also has guidelines embedded in the tab section before every chapter so that you can review those as you're coding. This is a nice tool if you have the book of which that we put on the list, which is the ICD-10 CM Expert for Physicians, just as an FYI. Okay. ICD-10 and ICD-10 PCS use the following E's and references. Index format for index subterms and qualifiers, boldface type. So in the index in the front of the book is where you're going to find your main term. So I'm going to basically walk you through how to find a code. Okay. So in your ICD-10 CM book, okay, in your coding manual, you're going to go to the front of the book and you're going to find your main term. Now your main term is going to be something that of which that is what's wrong with the patient, not the body part. Now keep that in mind. You can look at body parts in CPT, but in ICD-10 you can't find codes based on body parts. So if you have a heart disease, you're going to look up disease because that's what's wrong. What type of disease is the heart? So you're going to look at disease and then go down to heart. So that's how you're going to function when you use the book. Okay, so that's basically what the slide is telling you, is basically your main term is going to be in the alpha front index. It reads like a telephone book, so everything is alphabetized. Once you get to that main term, you look down to find everything else that correlates with what you're looking for. Okay, we're going to move on here. So here's an example The main term of hypoplasia, hypoplastic, that is your main term. Your subterm could be adrenal hypoplasia. So that's what you would be looking for when you look down, is the adrenal. Then the qualifier is with, so it's adrenal, so it'd be adrenal hyperplasia with, and then they're saying sexual precocity male. So that is the other, and it's congenital, which means they were born with it. Okay, so basically this one says is adrenal hypoplasia with sexual precocity congenital. Okay. So, and down here, it actually, under review of terms, it actually walks it down for you, okay? ICD-10 eponyms means it's named by someone else. Now, you can try using that as the main term in the alpha index, or you can actually, in the case of Meniere's disease, which is an ear condition, you can actually look at disease and then go down to Meniere's, but you can also find it under Meniere's as well. Bell's palsy can be found under Bell's and palsy both. So there are ways of looking both of them up by both words. Okay. Abbreviations, these examples or this information is found in your coding conventions in the front of the book. NEC says not elsewhere classified. Now these NES and NOS people get really confused on. And basic bottom line is NEC means we do not have enough information. Okay, you might want to write that down. NEC means we do not have enough information to code. Okay, now, okay, I take that back. NEC means that you have enough information, but you don't have the information to code it. Okay, so it could be a very special situation. This usually is an 8, is what it usually is on the backside, that character. That means that you have more information that is allotted for you to code. Okay, so then you would use the 8 or the NEC. NOS is not otherwise specified, which means there's not enough information in the documentation to code, and then you have to use the 9. Okay, so that's the unspecified. So NEC is an 8, which means you have too much information, but nothing in the book to give you guidance to code. So it's a special circumstance, you use the 8. 9 is NOS, which means you don't have enough information. And so therefore you have to use that code, the 9, unspecified. Okay. There's information in your book about the brackets. The brackets are found in the alpha index, which are 2 codes put together. You code them that way. They have to go together. So for example, E85.4 with the bracket of I43, it has to be coded that way, put a comma in between. Leave the brackets off, E85.4, comma I43. Okay, that's how we're gonna write these out. Okay, parentheses are words that actually describe a code or give you more information. Colons are example of A40 streptococcal sepsis, the code first. Code first instructions with a colon gives you guidance as far as what you're supposed to code first and then what goes second. So that's our sequencing. So what goes first, what goes second is dependent on what is documented in the tab section that tells you that this code goes first, or code first this, or sometimes it says code this second and code this first. So it's backwards, okay? ICD name box notes, examples, index main term epilepsy contains a box note that includes terms that are to be considered equivalent to intractable, such as pharmacoassistant. Table of neoplasm codes is another example. All right. There are 2 tables in the ICD-10 book, CM, and that is the neoplasm table, which is, you can find it right after in after the Z's in your alpha section at the front of the book. Then it goes into your table of drugs, and we'll go into how to read those. Okay, but there are 2 tables in there. Include notes. This is kind of confusing, but we're going to talk about the includes. Okay, so they appear in the tab section when you go back to look at your code to make sure you get all of the characters. Okay, so disease of inner ear includes osteochondrosis, so that's an example. Okay, so you're going to see it like that. Includes this. So it's really easy. It just tells you that if that's what you're looking for, then you're right on the money. Okay. Excludes notes. We have excludes 1 and 2. Excludes 1 means that you can never code this code with this. Okay. So exclude 1 codes means never, never, never. Okay. But exclude 2 codes means you can't, but sometimes in rare circumstances you can. So it might be, for example, this one is an example of post-traumatic osteoarthritis, left hand and post-traumatic osteoarthritis, first carpal metacarpal joint at the same time. This case is coded as M19142 and M18.2 or M18.3. And it says here, M19.141 is post-traumatic osteoarthritis right hand, and then there's one for the left hand, and there's an unspecified hand. So sometimes you can use exclude notes. My main thing is that if a patient has had hypertension for 20 years, and on the 21st year, 20 years after they got hypertension, they came down with diabetes. Well, okay, so hypertension really didn't cause the diabetes, and diabetes really didn't cause the hypertension. They had the hypertension since day 1. So that means that if it says you cannot, exclude 2, cannot code this code first with diabetes, and that's incorrect because they had diabetes way before they had that, or they had hypertension way before they had the diabetes. Okay. ICD-10-CM inclusion notes located below certain codes and tabular list indicate alternative terms for code descriptions. So inclusion notes are, there's exclude notes, there's include notes. So make sure you watch those in the book, in the back in the tab section where the numbers are. You're going to see them. They're going to be usually the red notes. Okay. For include, exclude, it gives you information about code first, or that type of thing. So make sure you watch for those. ICD-10-CM trust the index. So, okay, when you look it up in the alpha index, you look up your code and then you go to the back of the book in the tab section, you find that number code and then you code to the full extent. Okay, so I want you to go to, in the back of the book, I want you to look at, we're going to code a full extensive code here. All right, because we're going to look at these little red boxes in front of the tab section. So if you go to chapter 1, mine's on 436 in my book, but it's code, let me see, let me find one. Okay, A01.0. If you could go to that code, that would be great. Now, you can stop and start this video anytime you want. If you're going to take time to go find stuff, you can stop the video and then you can start again once you find it. Okay, I did want to tell you that too as well. Okay, so A01.0, typhoid fever. It says right next to the code a 5 with a red box and a check mark. That means you have to have 5 characters. So you cannot code just A01.0. You have to go down and code one of the options, the 0, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 9. Okay, typhoid fever with pneumonia. Okay, for example, if that's what you were looking for, you would go down and you would pick A01.03. Now, if you had typhoid fever with pneumonia and arthritis both, you would have to code both codes. Okay, does it matter which one goes first? Absolutely not. Okay, but you would have to code both codes. All right, let's pick another one. Let's go to A02.2. Localized salmonella infection, and it says we need 5 and a check mark. So we look down, we have to code one of those. Again, if we had meningitis and pneumonia, we would have to code 802.21 and 802.22. Okay, let me see if I can find any more that has to drill down even further. I don't see any in this section. So we will actually go over how to code and actually put in your extra character for the placeholder. I'm sure they've talked about that. We will talk about that, but an X is a placeholder because it's for growth. So it's sometimes they leave a whole field blank and they put an X in it for future use in case we need it. Now, for example, we had influenza, H1N1, COVID. I don't know if COVID-19 was in there at all in the book, but this is something that if they have to add new things like that, then they will have a place to put those. Okay, let's look at A40 in your book, in your tab section. I have it on 441 on my book if that helps. A40, streptococcal sepsis. This is what I mean by red notes in the code first. It says in red notes, code first, post-procedural streptococcus sepsis. Now, if they don't know or they didn't tell you in your documentation, then you can't code for that, but it's telling you you need to code it first. Streptococcus sepsis during labor, streptococcus sepsis following abortion or ectopical or molar pregnancy, streptococcal sepsis following immunization, streptococcal sepsis following infusion, transfusion, or therapeutic injections. So those are your options to code first. You would code those first, and then you would code this code, the A40, second. Now you notice on the A40 you need 4 characters and you only have 3, so you have to go down and you got to use the A40.0, 0.1, 0.3, 0.8, or 0.9. Okay, same thing applies with A41. You got the same notes again. If code first if you know this information, and then A41 needs 4 big characters, so you got to look down and you got to find one of the ones for A41.01, and it says under 01 you got to have 5. So now we bumped to 841 and then we went to A41.0 and it says we need 5 characters, so then we have to find our 5. Okay, so you got A41.01, 2 are your options, or you have A41.1, sepsis due to other specified staphylococcus, and then from there you, or 2, or 3, or 4. So you have to keep thinking about looking at the lower levels, looking down to see if you need to code even further yet. Okay, so we've talked about the red boxes with the characters. That's really important. Okay, and this one here again is just telling you infection. We're going to look in the index for infection, and then from down we're going to find our code. We're going to go over to the tabular section. We're going to look it up, and then we're going to determine if we have all of the characters or not. Okay, ICD-10 etiology manifestations. Code first, underlying disease. Code if applicable, code any casual conditions, use additional codes in disease classified elsewhere. So this basically means that manifestation means that you had this and it caused this. This manifested because of this. So a lot of times you're going to see it in meningitis. You can also see it in diabetes. It'll manifest as something else. Okay, it usually ends up going to, diabetes usually ends up going to maybe the heart, the kidneys, circulatory systems, eyes is another one, so it can manifest to that too. Okay, ICD-10 CMPCS and. The word and is located in the category titles and coded descriptors, and ICD-10 in the alpha section. Okay, so sometimes you will see chronic, acute and chronic means they're both together. It means the same, they're all in the same code. Okay, sometimes you will see an incident where you have hypertension and diabetes. Well, then you code both of them, hypertension and diabetes. Okay, due to, Due to means that something caused something else. So example is if you go into infection and then it says due to a resulting from artificial insemination, there's a code, N98.0. In the tab section, you got complications associated with artificial insemination, and N98.0 infection associated with artificial insemination. So that's what it's going to look like in your tab section. In is another one that they had, the play on words. Pneumonia in due to actinomycosis, A42.0. You look up A42, actinomycosis, and then you have the A42.0 pulmonary cytomycosis. Stenomycosis. Okay. Next is with, okay? Measles with meningitis. That means that they have two things together. We can code them together and it's one code. You go to the tab section and you see measles, and then you do the BO 5.1, measles complicated by meningitis, okay? Cross references C and C also. Now this one's tricky because this is the alpha section. If you're looking up something and you get to the point it says C, C also, or C condition, that means you don't go to condition. It means you have to find another main term to look up because this one's not working for you, okay? So that's what it means. So if it says condition, it's not, you don't go to condition, you have to find another main term, okay? CC also, and okay, good, awesome. Okay, so we got that done. Okay, so so now I'm going to actually go in and I'm going to show my screen again, and we're going to go into some coding issues on the homework, and we'll see what we can do with that, okay? And take a shot. We don't need to go through PowerPoint. There we go. And we're going to preview this. Okay, so there's, I know it says 94 points and it seems like a lot, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. In order to learn this, you have to do it. You can't just read it and think you know it. This is a skill set you have to develop, and this is a very important one because this is going to come back to get you in the next class, because you will still have to code for ICD-10 next quarter along with CPT. So it's really important. So I'm going to walk you through these, at least a few of them, to show you how to look at your main term. I'm going to actually walk through, let's walk through 5, okay? So that way, I'm not going to tell you answers, but I'm going to walk you through on how to look them up, okay? Acarisis infestation. Now, what's the descriptor? The acarisis infestation is what's wrong. So you want to go to infestation in the front of your book, okay? And then we're going to go to the A's under infestation, and we're going to find the acarisis. Okay, is there anything else that we have in there besides those 2 words? We don't, so we have to go with just those 2 words, okay, is what we're looking for. So infestation, 187 in your coding manual, if you have the one I do, and you look down to acarisis, okay, in here it says B88.0, okay? So now you're going to go to the tab section in the back where all the codes are, and you're going to look for B88.0. Okay, B88 is the main category, and it's other infestations. And we want B88.0, which is other acarisis, which is good because we don't have any information, okay? On the main character, or the main code or category, it says B88 needs 4 characters because of that red box with the 4 and the check mark. Great, so do we have 4? Yes, we do. All right, and Don't worry if it doesn't say acariasis infestation, because you know what? It says infestation at the top, okay? And it says other because ours is not in there, okay? So we're gonna do the B88.0. And I didn't tell you the answer, we walked through it, okay? All right, the next one, back to the alpha section. Pityriasis rubra pilaris. Okay. Now I'm gonna go with the first word, okay, on that one. Okay, and then from there, we're gonna go down to pityriasis. We're gonna go down to, we're gonna find rubra, okay, and then it's gonna have in parentheses hebra, and then it's and then it's gonna have pilaris. So everything that you're looking for is there, okay? It's on page 254 if that helps you in your alpha section. So pityriasis down to rubra pilaris, L44.0. And we're going to go to the L44.0 in the back of the book. Okay, L44.0 is on page 727 in my book. L44 says it's supposed to have 4 characters. It's in the red box with a 4 and a check mark. L44.0 says Pityriasis rubra pilaris. So we are good there. So there's your code. Okay. Again, you can stop and start this as much as you want to in order to find what you're looking for if you need more time. Okay. Next one, admission for adjustment of artificial leg. Okay, there is such a thing in the front of the book. Main character is admission. So let's look at admission first, okay? And it could be fitting, okay? Or adjustment. We can look for adjustment. Adjustment, there is adjustment. Okay, so admission. I have it on page 13 in my alpha index for the coding manual. Admission down to, we are adjusting, okay, artificial, and then it's an artificial leg, okay? Doesn't say anything about complete or partial, does it? So we want to do the legs. So Z44.10, and we're going to go way back to the back of the book. The Z's are at the very back, in the red section, in the back of the book, clear back, Z44.10. Okay, I have mine on page 1228. Z44.1 has 5 characters. It says, encounter for fitting and adjusting the artificial leg. If you look down on Z44.10, it says it actually needs 6, and that's because we need to say which leg it is. Bad news. This thing does not tell us about left or right. So we're going to have to use unspecified leg. So look down, 6 characters, find the one that says unspecified leg. Okay. Make sure you have 6 characters, unspecified leg, and you've got that one done. Okay. Adjustment disorder with anxiety is number 4. Okay. Adjustment disorder with anxiety. And my ICD-10 book is giving me problems here. Let's look for disorder, because disorder is a problem. Disease and disorder, I always remember that. Disease and disorder. So disorder, and then we're going to go adjustment. Let's try that. Okay. Okay, disorder, I have it on page 109 in my alpha index. Disorder, go down to adjustment, and we need with anxiety. Now, it doesn't say anything with depressed mood. It just says with anxiety. So find your code. And then we're going to go back to the F's in the back of the book. And that's actually on page 554. So, and feel free to write these codes down if you want to in order to look them up in the back. So that's totally, if you can't remember them, by all means do it. Okay, so looking at my code that I found from the front of the book, it says adjustment disorder, F43.2, it needs 5 characters. So looking down, we have adjustment disorder with anxiety. So that's what we're looking for. And then you find your 5 characters, and then that's your answer. Okay, we're going to try one more. Oh, this is a common one. Anorexia nervosa. We're going to look for anorexia. Okay, mine's on page 24, my alpha index. Anorexia down to nervosa. Find your code. I have 5 characters on mine, and it starts with an F. We're going to go to F50, and it said 0.00, so we're going to go to the F50.0, page 556 in my manual. F50.0 is anorexia nervosa. F50.00 is anorexia nervosa unspecified. We're going to use the unspecified one because they don't give us any other information. So we're going to do the F50.00. Okay. All right. So we've walked through 5 of these. So hopefully that has helped. Okay. So that is going to be, this is a lot for you this week. I know, I understand, but it's really important that you learn how to do the skill, and you know, the more you do it, it should be going faster. Okay. The discussion question this week is just basically what we talked about, the differences between NEC and NOS. And we talked about that. So that's really important. If you have any questions, go back to the slides or go back to your book and take a look at the big difference between the two. Okay. Workbook assignment this week, we've got some more coding, but this one here, let me see how many. It shouldn't be as long. Okay, this has 40 questions, okay? So you should get well prepared by doing both of these assignments. And again, for this class, I want to let you know that there are no assessments for this class. It is strictly homework, okay? The assessments aren't until the end when we do test you to see what you've learned, okay? So that is what we have for this week. I will meet you on Monday of next week. We do have a Monday meeting tonight going over Module 1, but Module 2's meeting will be next Monday night at 7 o'clock. Okay? See you then. Bye.